Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to Bible Prophecy Talk. My name is Chris, and it's good to be back with you again podcasting. Today I'm doing another live stream on twitch.com. You can go to Twitch and subscribe to Bible Prophecy Talk there. But for the most part, Bible Prophecy Talk is an audio-only podcast and has been for several years. So if you can download all the places that you find your podcast. So today I wanted to talk about Revelation 3:10, which is a really important passage concerning the rapture, especially if you are a pre-tribulationalist. You will point, or a lot of pre-tribbers point to Revelation 3:10 as one of, if not their only real proof text. And I want to talk about Revelation 3:10. I did not include any discussion about the passage in the film Seven Pre-Trib Problems and the Pre-Wrath Rapture, which I highly encourage people to check out if they haven't already. And the reason I didn't include it is because it didn't really fit. As we're going to see, my position on Revelation 3:10 is that it's really not talking about, it doesn't help pre-tribulationalism. It doesn't hurt pre-tribulationalism. And the same way, it doesn't help or hurt pre-wrath or any other position. That's the position I'm going to take, and I'll explain why. But I think in order to do that, I want to go through some of the other views that people take on the passage and explain why they, what the issues are. So I guess the place to start is just to read the passage. So I'll bring up logos here. And so it says here in Revelation 3:10, now again for context, Revelation starting in chapter 2, the seven churches are mentioned, the church of Ephesus and Smyrna and Pergamum and all the rest of them. And there's a very specific pattern here. Very specific things are said. It usually ends with a promise to the overcomers. It's actually very formulaic in these churches. And a lot of people do a lot of different things with these churches. That is to say, some of them will make them be churches from the past ages, like maybe the church of Pergamum was from a certain age, and the church of Thyatira was the age after that, and then all the way down to the last one, the church of Laodicea, which they would say represents the modern day church, or the church that will be present when the end times happens, or something like that. I'm sort of agnostic on that. I see application certainly with all these churches and teachings that can be applicable to all churches of all time periods. I don't see any explicit reason to say these are, whatever chronological churches. I don't have a problem with it. There's no view or anything I can think of that really depends on it or requires it. But I don't see anything in the text that says that that's what we're supposed to do with that. And I don't know of another place where with the lack of any kind of obvious chronological marker. Like, for example, I know that the seven trumpets come before the seven bowls because the last trumpet introduces the seven bowls. You know what I mean? There's reasons for the other consecutive sevens. This isn't an explicit reason, but again, I don't have an issue with it. So anyway, so by the time we get to the second to last one, the Church of Philadelphia, Revelation 3:10 says, "Because you have kept my admonition to endure steadfastly, I will also keep you from the hour of testing that is about to come on the whole world to test those who live on the earth." It's distracting over there. So the idea is that because this church had kept the Lord's admonition to endure steadfastly, therefore they would be kept out of the hour of testing, whatever that may be, which is about to come upon the earth dwellers. And I typically take the earth dwellers here as a reference to what this book is about. This is in the book of Revelation. It's here for a reason. The earth dwellers are about to be a very specific group of people. That is those who either took the mark or worship the beast, who are otherwise going to hell. Those are the people in the book of Revelation who are punished with the wrath of God, as we will progress throughout the book. So this church is going to be kept from the hour of testing. Now, there's three different views here. Now, obviously, the pre-tribbers would like to say here that this is a picture of the church who will be raptured, kept from, right? So they're going to be kept going to keep you from the hour of testing. They're going to be kept from the hour of testing by being raptured, and then the hour of testing on the rest of the earth dwellers. So one of the things I guess I want to say first is that there's a group of people who will argue, these are typically post-tribbers or some pre-wrathers and other people that don't hold to the pre-trib position. Some of them will argue that the hour of testing that is about to come upon the whole earth is not the wrath of God, but rather either some local tribulation that will befall those in the first century, or some other kind of persecution, or basically it's just not the wrath of God. And so they'll go through like a word study of the word for the hour of temptation here, which is how do you say this? I certainly don't know. I guess we'll hear it said.
Strong's G 3986.
Basically, if you look through the ways that this word for temptation is used in the New Testament, you'll be just as confused as you were before you started, because temptation, like the word thalipsis, tribulation, can be and is used in multiple different ways and contexts throughout the New Testament. So it can be, for example, in 2 Peter 2:9, the Lord knows how to deliver the godly out of temptations, and that word is the same word there, temptations, and to reserve the unjust unto the day of judgment to be punished. So there, because it's separating the two items very clearly, we know that it's probably referring to the wrath of God there. But the same author, in another letter, uses it in a completely different way. Beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial which is about to try you, as though something strange has happened to you. The exact opposite sentiment. You are about to experience this, and don't be thinking it's crazy that you're going to be experiencing trials, that word parasmos or whatever. So even within the same author, in the same context, he's using it in two completely different ways. So in other words, it's really no help to appeal to the Greek word, the hour of temptation. What is that? Is there anything that we can gather from that? Well, yeah, you can gather that you're still kind of in the place where you started. It can be wrath, and it can be temptations. The very thing that we're, of course, promised over and over again in the New Testament, that we will go through various temptations and trials, etc. But we're not to go through the wrath of God. 1 Thessalonians 5 says specifically, and all positions agree, that we are not to go through the wrath of God. So that's the first group. Let's see. Another group here would be probably, I'm going to refer to Charles Cooper. Charles Cooper is a pre-wrather, so he is not going to take the traditional pre-trib line here. What he does is, and he's written a little sort of pamphlet here called Revelation Bombshell, a deeper analysis of Revelation 3:10. And whenever you hear Charles talk about this, it's very, decisive. It's the pre-tribulationalism is done. It's finally over, and here's the reason why. And what he does, for example, in this book, is he spends a good deal of time quoting different pre-tribulationalists who use and say things about Revelation 3:10 and say, this is very, very, crazy things. Like, this is the only real proof text pre-tribulationalism has, just that kind of seriousness about Revelation 3:10. And he spends a lot of time on it because they spend a lot of time on it. And, if you ask a pre-tribulationalist, is there a single proof text for pre-tribulationalism? The answer is no. People like John Walvoord, John MacArthur will admit there is no single proof text for pre-tribulationalism. You have to sort of be taught a system in order to understand it. But they will say, as close as we can come is something like Revelation 3:10, because you have endured, you will be kept from the hour of temptation that's going to come upon the whole world. That's about as close as they can get. So the way that Coop does this is, let's see, I'm going to pull up this again. So what he really does is he shows that the punctuation here is incredibly important. Namely, that when it starts off, because you have kept my admonition to endure steadfastly, comma, I will also keep you from the hour of testing that is about to come upon the whole world to test those who live upon the earth. what Coop does is says that this first part about keeping your admonition to endure steadfastly is not actually supposed to be understood as a part of this next verse. In fact, it's supposed to be included with the section right before it. So let me highlight that, which says, and then it would read, "Look, I will make them come and bow down at your feet and acknowledge that I have loved you because you have kept my admonition to endure steadfastly." So if, and this is, and that's what this pamphlet of Coop does, is shows that and makes a strong argument from what I can tell. I'm certainly no Greek scholar, but from what I can tell, he makes a very strong argument that this, because you have kept my admonition to endure steadfastly, should be included with that previous verse, which is about those that are going to come and bow down at their feet and acknowledge that I have loved you because they have kept his admonition to endure. And then it starts a new thought here when it says, "I will also keep you from the hour of testing that is about to come upon the whole world to test those who live on the earth." So what this does is it takes out the conditional reason for them being kept from the hour of testing. So now they're still being kept from the hour of testing that's about to come upon the whole world, or the earth dwellers, but not in this case because they have kept the admonition to endure steadfastly. And, I've listened to Coop talk about this, and I understand what he's talking about, and I agree with him, but I don't actually end up seeing that that's much of a significant difference in terms of what the pre-tribulationalist is claiming with this verse. It doesn't really change things. In other words, if you just took this whole first part out of the equation and you're just left with this second part, "I will also keep you from the hour of testing that is about to come on the whole world and test those who live on the earth," you're still left with the core of the pre-trib argument about this verse, right? Somebody is being kept from an hour of trial that's about to come on the other people that live on the earth. So you're back to square one as far as I can see. Now, I've never, asked Coop to expand on that or anything. I'm sure he's got an answer if I had said that. Now, I think the view that I take is that of Alan Kirschner. And so Alan has written about this, and he's got a few podcasts about it and different things. But this is a really just short article that he wrote back in 2012. And it seems, I've talked to Alan after this, and he seems to still hold to this basic idea. And I'll just read what he says. Let's see. He says, "I would like to step back and propose a simple response, particularly to the way pre-tribulationalism interprets this verse. Pre-tribulationalism reads this verse as a promise to the church that they will be raptured, keep you from before the day of the Lord's wrath, the hour of testing. This is supposed to prove a pre-tribulational rapture. However, there's one flaw. If they think that they own this conclusion, pre-wrath also affirms that the rapture occurs before the day of the Lord, the hour of testing, as I believe that the day of the Lord's wrath only proves that the church will not experience the day of the Lord's wrath. So Revelation 3:10 does not address when the day of the Lord starts, which is the fundamental question. The verse only gives a promise of a particular protection." Okay, so I'm going to explain this because I didn't do a very good job reading that. Let me pull this up first. This is all the four main rapture positions. And this little pink area, the day of the Lord, you can see is drastically different in all four of these positions. Really, the rapture positions are less about when the rapture happens and more about when the day of the Lord starts. All four of these positions believe that they will be kept from the hour of testing. All four of them. I was talking to somebody on Twitter today, a pre-tribulationalist, whose argument against the idea of pre-wrath was, again, I can't buy it because the church was not supposed to go through the wrath of God, so therefore pre-trib. And again, we had to say, well, all the positions believe that the church isn't going to go through the wrath of God. The question that the scholars debate is, when does the wrath of God start? And that's the thing that the scholars are having trouble with in the seminaries. And many pre-tribulational scholars, for example, have recently changed their views to deal with the problems of them saying that the entire 7-year period is the wrath of God. It's simply a very difficult thing to defend once you get into the details, as we do in the film The Seven Pre-Trib Problems and the Pre-Wrath Rapture, in which goes through the different scholarly arguments and the what the scholars are doing and saying. So back to Revelation 3:10. Let's pull it up here. Look, I will make them come and bow down at your feet and acknowledge that I have told you, because you have kept my admonition to endure steadfastly. So let's take that out of the equation for now. I will also keep you from the hour of testing that is about to come on the whole world to test those who live on the earth. And I mean, you look at this and you say, well, duh. I mean, obviously. I wanted to say something that if you haven't noticed it and you're involved in these kind of discussions with pre-tribbers, and this isn't just with the sort of layman pre-tribbers, this goes right up to the very top. This is an endemic, systemic problem in pre-tribulationalism, is that they honestly believe that sort of refuting post-tribulationalism is the same thing as proving pre-tribulationalism. If you go through like a list of a pre-tribber's proofs of pre-tribulationalism, which is an incredibly difficult thing to do, if not an impossible thing to do, what that list mostly will do is say things that are against post-tribulationalism. So, for example, let's pull up our little post-tribulation. So, and really, technically, it's not even against post-tribulationalism at all either, because technically a post-tribulationalist here would say that they are also kept from the hour of testing, which they believe is a 24-hour period at the end of the 70th week. So yeah, the post-tribber could use the same argument that I'm using now and saying, no, actually, we will be raptured before the hour of testing that's about to come on the whole earth. So even the post-tribber, who has what I believe is an untenable idea that the day of the Lord is a 24-hour period, and we could go through all the reasons for that or whatever. But you need to recognize that pre-tribbers a lot of times knock down the straw man of or what they think post-tribulationalism teaches, and then declares pre-tribulationalism the victor, as if the only two options in the world are pre-tribulationalism and post-tribulationalism, and to knock one down is to prove the other, which is not the case. Again, the question is, when does the wrath of God, known as the day of the Lord, start? And there are a lot of interesting clues on that. Again, see the movie Seven Pre-Trib Problems.